Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. Last time we left off with Mail for the Pacific, basically showing Christmas presents more or less. This is mostly the Christmas mail. For the soldiers in the Pacific Theater, obviously. We're now on to Verdun Falls to Patton's Men. August 31st, 1944. Memories of Another War. Covering 65 miles in one day, men of General Patton's Third Army entered the famous fortress city of Verdun and captured it against slight opposition. One of the keystones of the Maginot Line, some of its fortifications had been demolished. In this picture, 5 American GIs cooked their dinner at the base of the monument to men of the First World War. You can see. And yeah, Verdun, huge fortress city, and in the First World War was a absolute bloodbath between the Germans and the French. It was pretty bad. The Maginot Line, obviously we always think of it as such a failure, but technically it did do its job. It's just it didn't have good other defenses elsewhere. But the Maginot Line was intended to deter the Germans from entering, and it did do that. They just went around Belgium instead. Through Belgium instead, and the Ardennes Forest and things like that. So while the Maginot Line is kind of joked at today, it technically did do what it was supposed to do. It's just what they were thinking they wanted. It's not what they actually wanted. Devastation in a Chinese city. August 31st, 1944. This was once a home in China. American troops and American-trained and equipped Chinese troops entered the ancient Jade Center of Tangchung during the last week of August. But the city did not fall to the Allies until after 5 weeks of bloody warfare. In this picture, a blind refugee, led by a small boy, makes his way through the ruins of what was once his home in Tangchung. Yeah, you just have to feel awful for these people. China gets hit hard by this war, as many other places do. And they do recover eventually. China is, look at it today. But for these people, this was probably devastating. And for this man, this was his home. He's blind. He has to rely on others for help. And now he has to rely on people to help him more than he did before. And I'm sure he kind of feels regret for that, which he shouldn't, but it's how it happens. Wow, again in Russian hands. August 1944. Reconquest. Soviet troops and equipment are shown right here in a Laos street after the reoccupation of the Polish city, which was started in the last days of July. The history of Laos since 1939 has been crowded with changes. In September of that year, it became part of Russia, according to the terms of the Hitler-Stalin Pact. In 1941, it was taken by the Germans, who held it for 3 years. Below, Soviet troopers make prisoner of a German motorcyclist in the Laos area. Yeah, so obviously it's, once again, another place in Poland, now in the hands of the Soviet Union. The Poles really get the short end of the stick in this war completely, because before the war, they knew they were going to be invaded. They are invaded by Germany and the Soviet Union, who both take a half. And then Germany conquers it all. And then the Soviets reconquer what they had conquered previously and conquer the German side. And so then they're under the Soviet Union until the 1990s? It's pretty awful. The Polish people were very much treated poorly. And you can see that in their national spirit today with how they think of things. Covering in advance across the sign. August 1944. Ticklish work, but necessary. American riflemen crouched behind a barricade on the shores of the Seine River, near the town of Montreux, France. Covering GIs and equipment crossing the river on pontoon ferries built by U.S. Army engineers, most of the opposition was from scattered units of the once powerful German armies. There was no longer any semblance of a German line in France. Yeah, that's not surprising. The Germans are losing very badly here, and everything's going wrong for them. They're falling back. They're going to fall back to Germany, and it's just going to be a domino effect of all the blows coming to them. 2 methods of cleaning up. August 1944. Halmahera and Guam. Sorry about that. Didn't know how to pronounce that. American bombers of the U.S. 5th Air Force attack at low level the Wiley Pier on Halmahera Island, the last Japanese bastion between New Guinea and the Philippines. This was one of the many air raids on Halmahera that preceded an invasion that followed weeks later. Halmahera, located equidistant between Celebes and the Dutch half of New Guinea, was an important outpost for the Japanese on the Philippines. Below, the arrival of a water truck on Guam proved a big event to the Marines who were engaged in mopping up operations on that island. Fresh water was a priceless luxury after the smoke and grime of battle. So yeah, we have Halmahera getting heavily pounded by the Air Force. I'm sure they're going to take it. Obviously, the Allies are going to take it, and if there's people living on it, they probably are glad the Allies are there, probably not glad the bombs are there. And yeah, the men, obviously, clearly, I didn't realize, but they're a little covered in dirt, and they're getting their showers. Looking like they're having a little bit of fun there. Generals confer in a plane. August 31st, 1944. Discussing the next moves in the Battle of France. 2 lieutenant generals, 2 helmets, the crew, and 1 jeep are in the contents of this C-47 plane by Lieutenant General Omar N. Bradley. There's Bradley. And Lieutenant General George S. Patton. There's Patton. As they return from a tour of the Brittany Peninsula. General Bradley has been given equal rank with General Montgomery shortly before this picture was taken. Yeah, Patton, obviously, the reason he's not given that is because he kind of does some things that's not so great. And Bradley is just the better choice. And Bradley's a good general. Let's not say he's not. He does good in this war. Patton would be considered probably the better, but in terms of personality, it's definitely Bradley. Comforting the grief-stricken family of a patriot. August 31st, 1944. After a mass execution. An American soldier comforts the grief-stricken family of one of the 27 Maquis who were executed en masse by the Germans when they attempted to seize the garrison of a town on the road to Brest. The Germans quelled the uprising, and the Maquis were executed and buried in a shallow grave. The executioners were captured and made to exhume the bodies. Yeah, you can see the family, very sad. American soldiers there, holding them, saying, he's probably saying, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. Yeah, and obviously that's the least that the executioners could do is exhume the bodies. Just awful stuff. Gonna be a little bit of a longer video today, but we're almost done with this book, so might as well. After 2 years, Canadians returned to Deep. September 1st, 1944. No turning back this time. French residents of this famous resort town line the streets as Canadian soldiers march into the town. It was at Deep the British and Canadian commandos staged their brilliant but unsuccessful raid on the morning of August 19th, 1942. In this drive along the coast, the British had an additional motive to spur them on capture of the robot landing sites. Yeah, so you can see soldiers returning. The people, who knows what they're thinking? There might be like, "Welcome back, boys," or "Get the hell out." Not sure. But I'm sure for the Canadian military, this is a great boon, because it's like, look, we returned. We're going to be successful this time. We're going to be successful. Status as the 5th year ended. September 1st, 1944. The story after 5 years. I'm going to try to do the best I can of this Eastern Hemisphere map. While the Allies were closing in on all sides, the Axis nations and their few remaining satellites were still in possession of large critical areas of territory. The German hordes had been pushed out of France and Russia, but still kept a strong grip on Central Europe. Japan had lost many important Pacific Island bases, but still had held huge slices of the Far East. While the prospects were bright for a quick end to the European struggle, it was estimated that the Pacific War had 1 or 2 years to run. With the 6th year coming up, the Allies still faced much blood, sweat, and tears. That's very true, and we'll just look at the map a little bit. So you can see, like they said, have a strong grip. Most of France has been cleared. Most of Italy has been cleared, but you still have big parts of, obviously, Finland. You have Estonia. Most of Lithuania and Latvia are both cleared. Poland, they still have half of Poland. Romania, most of that. They still have all of Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria, Greece, most of Greece. There's a little bit there that's not. Most of Greece, did I say Yugoslavia? Yeah, probably. And then Austria and Germany. And obviously they do have Norway still and Denmark. So like they said, they still have a strong grip on Central Europe, but obviously all sides are collapsing in on them basically. So that's not going to last for long. And then we have in the Far East, the Japanese still have a little bit of New Guinea, Celebes, Borneo, Sumatra, Malaya, the Philippines. Not most, but a lot of China, all of Manchuria, all of Korea, and Burma, and Thailand, and French Indochina, which today would be Vietnam. So there's still a lot that they have to clear. But the Allies are almost ready to clear them. And with that, that's going to do it for this video and this book. I will see you guys in the next one. That'll probably be Monday. And it'll be the 4th and I believe the final book of a pictorial history of the Second World War. Now, as you can see, this book definitely is going to need some rest. I'm going to get these fixed up, I believe, here soon, hopefully. So, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you didn't, leave me a comment. Tell me what I could improve on. I always appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you.